Is that our background music? Wow. Check, check, check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm talking. I'm excited. I love life. All right, so Dominic, I want to tell you something.
All right, what's up?
It's really nice that Christians, like someone who actually loves God, generally speaking, if you come to them with something that is that runs contrary to what they believe, they'll be upset by that and initially reject it, perhaps, usually, but still they're going to think about it later, and it's going to bug them because they have a commitment to truth and a commitment to God, and so at least the still small voice inside them might convict them to be like, oh, I got to think about this now. And then maybe later on when you talk to them, it might take like 10 more times talking to them, but they'll eventually maybe come around if you're right. Maybe. It's not definite, but at least they don't hate your guts. Or maybe they will hate
Sometimes
your guts.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, they might. But, I mean, generally speaking, what's amazing is judging, being able... I think God made it easy for us to see each other's sins or just see that what the other's doing is wrong. He made it very easy for us because he wanted us to all help each other.
Right. But then for some reason, seeing your own sin,
yes,
it's so difficult.
You cannot see your own sin. It's hard. And if somebody brings it to
you... you are amazing, and I love you.
That's true. So that means you love me.
I love you, Brian.
Because I can see my own sin. And we could have a show all about my sin. And I've talked about it a lot. Just get my first sermon that I did for DBC. It's pretty rough.
Intense.
But anyway, the only reason I bring this up is today my topic I want to talk through with you is things liberals just don't get. Because whereas with a Christian, you have like some possibility that if you're going to like call into question the things they believe, you know, you might get an adverse reaction initially. Or maybe they'll just be grateful initially. That can happen too. With a liberal, we talked about this on our last show. They mostly just want you to shut up. They want you to be quiet. They don't want to hear it. They get angry at you. You know, now they'll start maybe talking about, you know, politics, religion, right and wrong kind of topics if they're drunk.
Right. If you've ever debated someone about abortion, if you've ever debated a liberal as a white man that you are, they will say that since you are a white man, you cannot say anything about abortion because for some reason you being a white man, it affects whether or not abortion is moral or not. But they try and silence you just because they don't want to hear what you have to say.
But then you just tell them that you identify as a black woman.
Right. And then
they have to listen to you. So that's why my name is Shaniqua for only when I speak with crazy liberals. I'm Shaniqua.
You're Shaniqua on Liberal Day.
Yes. So, so the topic is things liberals just don't get, and I wanted to talk through this because imagine if a liberal had the capacity to hear just that maybe the things they think are wrong. We could talk through this through my list, and maybe you've got some ideas too, so you can add to my list. And it'd just be amazing to see their like gears turning over all their stupidity and the way they just don't understand like the most basic common sense things. And I just wish that if a liberal heard this, they would take all this insulting banter about how you just can't, you're such a narrow-minded person and you can't think outside the box, and that would insult you to the point that you want me to be wrong, and that you're just going to listen to this and see if maybe one of these 10 or more things we bring up might be true of you. Something that you don't get. So before I point out one of mine, can you tell me, do you have anything in mind you want to chime in on something they don't get?
I had made a list prior to the show. Like we always tell each other the topics we want to talk about a little bit in advance. But I had made a list. But as you were talking, one thing I came up with, which this is true when you're talking about anything. They do not understand analogies. They cannot comprehend that if you tell them something they do is like something this other person does, they cannot comprehend what that means.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
So give me an example of something you want to say. You're trying to give an analogy. They're like, I think homosexuality is an easy one, right? You're saying like, you don't agree that homosexuality is wrong, but you do agree that like, child pornography is wrong. And so where do you think right and wrong comes from?
Homosexuality is not the same thing as child pornography, Brian.
I know that. What about, like, pedophilia? You believe that's wrong.
Homosexuality is not pedophilia, Brian.
No, but I'm just trying to say that, my liberal friend Dominic, that you agree that things are wrong.
Homosexuality is not wrong.
No, but you get what we're saying. That's the way it goes.
That's their logic.
You're trying to say, like, look, I know that you've come to this, like, decision that this thing that is wrong isn't. But just a little while ago, people thought it was wrong, just like they think these other things are wrong, like pedophilia, child pornography. But guess what? The way the liberals are going, eventually those things are going to be fine too.
Right.
Because they have no basis for right and wrong, and that's actually something we're going to get into.
And so if you don't believe that liberals don't understand analogies, give them this analogy if you're talking about abortion. Say with slavery, with most mass injustices, how people tend to justify themselves is by dehumanizing their victims.
It's not the same thing.
So, with slavery, they would pretend that blacks weren't people, essentially, and that's what they do with abortion. It's that same dehumanization.
It's not the same thing.
That is exactly
Dominic,
what they'll say.
Abortion and slavery are not the same thing.
So, if you're listening to this, try this with one of your pro-abort friends, and I guarantee you they will not be able to comprehend what you're saying.
Right. So that's one thing they just don't get are analogies, specifically if it's a good analogy to help them understand something.
Right.
So, okay, great
one. If it's a bad analogy, maybe they'll be able to understand.
Maybe. Or if it's about something unimportant.
If it disagrees with their ideology, then they will not be able to understand.
Right.
But
true. All right, so that's a great one. What else you got? Anything else on top of your mind?
Well, I have my list here, but I know you have your list. You want to go back and forth between lists?
Okay, sure. I wrote mine in order of, like, grandest, most important, and then I tried to do it in making it less and less, like,
mine is very staggered, so we'll have a good variety.
Okay, well, my first one I'm going to say is just this. The first most important things that liberals just don't get is that the existence of our universe requires an uncaused cause. What do you think about that?
That seems to be exceedingly obvious.
Yes.
But for some reason they don't get it.
Yeah, so there's this great saying, if ever there were nothing, there could never be anything. Isn't that incredible?
I like that.
Just think about that for 2 seconds. It's really mind-blowing. But anyway, so the whole universe, thermodynamics, the basic laws of physics and science, they tell us that a rock cannot create itself, right? Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that a fire cannot burn forever. Entropy. So they get so, like, caught up in, like, the whole chicken and the egg scenario. Like, they're like, which came first? Right. Was it the chicken or the egg? I don't know. It's mind-blowing.
The chicken.
Yes, you answered it. See, well, that's the first thing, Mr. Liberal. If you're listening, then we just taught you something. The chicken came first. So if you were wondering, now you know, and you could think about that. You could turn it off here and process that for a little while.
But so with the thermodynamics, it's like there's 3 options as to how we got here, right? We were created, we've always been here, or we created ourselves.
Exactly. And that's why the second 2 that you said they violate the laws of thermodynamics.
Right, because we can't create ourselves. Is that the first law of thermodynamics?
Yeah, it can't just spontaneously come into...
I forget the order of them.
I don't know which one is which, but
then
the
another
conservation of mass and energy is one. And
right. No...
That's that one. And then
no perpetual motion machines.
That's entropy.
Right. So you can't have... Had we been here forever, all the stars would have burnt out by now. So, process of elimination... The only way we could have arrived here is if we were created.
Exactly. So, I read something in philosophy that called that the law of the excluded middle. That if you know only A or B or C, and it cannot be A or C, then it must be B. Yeah. It's interesting.
And then people will say that's an argument from ignorance, but that's...
Yeah, that's like Stockholm Syndrome. That's an argument from ignorance. All right, but anyway, the Big Bang Theory is in crisis. It's not reported. Textbooks, museums, PBS specials, like anywhere you go.
Evolution's big squeeze.
Yeah, anywhere you go, it's like they act like nothing's wrong. Like, yeah, we got it all figured out, and it's just annoying. Like, it just shows how it's like it's a church, right? This is their religion, and they know that if word gets out that this whole idea we have is in crisis, that people will leave the church, they'll stop, they won't get their grants, they won't get their money, and
that's why there's like scientists who they come out with these amazing discoveries that are just unbelievable, and then we hear them say, "I don't want to tell anyone about this. I'll lose my job." I'm not even going to say I think this means creation is true. But if I just say what I found, I'm going to lose my job.
The implication is that, of course, the idea of just complete naturalism is false. But if I say this, I'll lose my job. That poor guy.
Right.
And I wonder if that makes him process for himself. Like, that doesn't mean that he's like becoming a theist, like that he believes that God created the world. It just means like, hey, well, these findings just objectively say this.
Right.
So... Anyway, so that's my first one.
Okay.
You want to give one?
Yeah. So when you say liberals,
yes.
This is a little bit more broad as to mean anyone who's not Christian.
No, I actually thought through that, but I feel like liberals generally support evolution. They support the Big Bang.
That's true.
Even if they say they're Christian, like they might say that, but then... They still don't believe the Bible.
Science, not the Bible.
Yeah, if you're liberal, you cannot believe the Bible. Like you'll say, yes, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, but I don't believe the Bible, and I'm just kind of believing in Jesus just in case.
I agree.
Something like that.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
But so the first thing on my list is liberals do not understand, they just don't get that if the government pays for something, no matter what, it will become more expensive.
Oh!
They cannot comprehend that idea.
Wow,
So like with
thought.
college, our colleges are so expensive, and the more and more that governments try to help pay for them, the more expensive they get.
Of course, because who's looking at the bill? Like, normally if you get a bill for something and it says $500, you want to know why was it $500. You're going to like look into it. You're going to try to figure out or get a discount. But the government, they don't care.
Right.
They're just taking your money
more so
and paying
than that.
the bill.
Brian, you own a cleaning company, right?
Yes.
Let's pretend you own a college instead.
Okay. Or how about just a cleaning company?
Okay,
sure. Can we make this analogy with a cleaning company?
We can. Okay, you own a cleaning company, right?
It's not the same thing. Sorry.
You own a cleaning company.
Yes.
Say, like, how much would you charge for a cleaning? Say you charge $100 to clean a house.
Okay. That sounds fair.
Then that's about the market price to clean a house.
Right.
The government comes along and they say, you know what, Brian? Yeah, you're still going to clean these 30 houses, but it doesn't matter how much you charge. You just have to clean them. That's all that matters. What do you do as a business owner?
It doesn't matter if what I charge, I have to clean them. The government's forcing me to clean the houses.
Not they're forcing you, but it is dreadfully important to the government. They don't care about anything other than these houses.
I'll charge them whatever I think I can get away with.
Right. You could charge them $3 million per house.
If I send them an invoice, maybe every time I send it, it'll be like $100 more.
Right. So what liberals want the government to pay for their college.
Right.
So the colleges, they say, oh, well, if the government is going to pay for this, we're just going to drive up our prices.
Well, also, the other thing is that it increases demand for the services. So when you have an increase in demand with not as much supply, that also naturally drives the price up, right? If the government's paying for everyone to go to college, or if they're paying for everyone to get the house cleaned, like suddenly I don't have the capacity to clean all these houses. In order to make that happen, I'm going to have to charge more to make that happen.
Right. And more people are going to want to have their houses cleaned because they're not the ones paying for it.
Well, now everyone has an entitlement to clean houses. Right. And so if the government's forcing this to happen, then not only is it going to be driven up just by the sheer fact that it's going to cost me a lot more to find a way to make it happen, but also because there's no accountability. When the government gets the bill, like I said, there's nobody there who like cares about worrying about the budget.
Right.
Right. They're just going to pay
easy
whatever
to spend
bill
other
comes
people's
in.
money.
Oh, definitely.
So that's why you always hear those stories of like the government spends like $1,000 on like a hammer.
Even some businesses fall for this stuff. Like, who was the guy? There was a guy recently who was sending bills to Google and Apple and he walked away with millions in just fake invoices. So, yeah, when the government gets involved, the prices go up. And I feel like there must be other reasons, too, than the two that we've touched on. Do you have any other, just off the top of your head, thoughts as to why that happens?
Why what happens?
Why the prices go up. Yeah, the government starts paying for something, the price is going to go up. Right?
Right.
Like,
well,
think
just
about
because
health
there's
insurance.
more people who feel entitled to it. and that the people providing that service or product, they realize that they can charge as much as they want and it'll get paid.
Right.
So.
Do you think there's ever a case, like, think about something. What if the government says, hey, we're going to provide apples. We're going to provide apples. Everyone gets apples shipped to them every day. Like, is it possible that the apple farmers will not raise the price and just keep it where it's at?
I would say that would almost definitely not happen.
Right. So the main reason is that the people who are providing the product or service are taking advantage of the government's stupidity.
Right. And they'd be right to do so, you know? Wouldn't it be wrong of them?
Well, imagine an apple farmer.
Money.
Right now he's got an orchard. He can produce like however many, 10,000 apples. And now he knows, oh, the government's going to pay me to make sure there's an apple on every doorstep every day forever. So, you know, I mean, I could see scenarios in my mind, not to just automatically agree with what you're saying off the cuff. Like, I'm trying to think through it. So I'm imagining someone comes to me and says, you have to clean all those houses. The first thing I'm thinking is, I think initially I might actually keep the pricing where it is, but I would want to make sure that I'm one of the first cleaning companies that gets to acquire all this business, right? And so I'd be like on a hiring spree, trying to hire everybody I can. But then that's tough because quality control, you know, making sure that things are right. A lot of companies don't care so much about the quality.
Well, that's one thing that happens with like healthcare, for example. When the government starts paying for it, the quality plummets.
Sure.
So you try and go to like, you know, everyone always says, oh, go to these places that have, you know, national healthcare like paid for. It's like, the service is terrible. Every time there's like a rich person in like a foreign country who has like an ailment or a sickness, why do they always come to America?
Right, because we have good government-run healthcare. Well, it's going that way.
It's going that way.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, another thing about healthcare is, think about it. You only have so many doctors. And now everybody's entitled to a doctor. Now that's why in Canada, like, you can't even get an appointment. You got to wait 6 months.
Right.
Because even like the homeless guy on the street who can't afford a doctor gets to go to the doctor.
There was a YouTuber I like, and he went to Canada, and he was trying to see how long it would take to get an ER visit.
Wow.
So he was pretending that he broke his wrist skateboarding. Oh. So he went to the ER. And after, I think it was like 16 hours of waiting, they decided it's not worth it for the video, and they were going home.
What?
Yeah.
With a broken wrist?
Mm-hmm.
So
that was I think about maybe 9 years ago though. So that was a lot outdated.
And this is healthcare specifically.
Yeah.
So it's not like commodities. It's not like apples. So I think that definitely you're right that they don't get that. I don't know about the price going up for everything for sure, but definitely that when the government gets involved, it messes everything up.
Yes.
So that's a cool one to think through.
There's always unintended consequences when the government does basically anything.
And they have no business being in these things in general. No. And that's another thing that they don't get.
How does providing, you know, free apples, how does that help uphold my rights? I don't understand that.
Well, you need to eat. And an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Right.
And so they're also paying for the doctor.
We don't need to pay for health care.
So they're trying to, my employees, they go to the ER.
I am an Apple supporter now.
You are?
I think that the government should give everyone apples.
They make good computers. Pretty soon they will be making Apple give everyone computers because it's not fair that someone has to have some crummy old Dell.
That's true.
You know? Anyway, okay.
I'm becoming a socialist throughout this show.
All right. Hopefully that, well, I don't know. I'm going to slap you. All right. So
your
my
turn.
Next one. All right.
Next point.
My next one, things that liberals just don't get is the earth is special. Right? They think that it's the Copernican principle.
A good portion of them do.
Yeah.
Well, I think they'll say it's special, but like not that it's inherently special. It's just coincidentally special.
Okay. Interesting. Like, you know, like if you think about all the scientists out there and people who subscribe to the science, secular science views, they say it's the cosmological principle, the Copernican principle. The Earth occupies no special space. It's just another infinitesimal speck in a sea of black that is the universe, right? And so if you're a Christian, if you love the Lord, then you know that actually the Earth is the most specifically important place other than heaven in existence.
Right.
So, you know, we've got this finely tuned place that now they're even saying it's probably the center of the universe the axis of evil. They have this Planck satellite.
I think we're close to the center is what they're saying, right?
Well, it moves, right?
Right.
So if something's moving, it can't always be in the center, but basically it'll be in the center. And so the Planck, that satellite that took that data, it showed that there's two hemispheres of the universe, a hotter and a colder, and that the line, the axis for those two hemispheres, it runs right through the Earth's axis.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? They call it the axis of evil.
Yes.
Why would they call it that?
Because it shows that
probably there's a God who created us, who loves us.
It's hilarious.
And to them, that's evil.
And they call good evil and evil good.
Right.
Yes. So that was my next one, is that the Earth is special. That seems to me to be something they don't get, but you think maybe a lot of them do get that?
Well, a lot of them think that, it's definitely special in the sense that we have life here, unlike, the vast majority.
But don't they think it's also, there's life throughout the whole universe? Probably. We just haven't found it yet. Like, they all believe in aliens.
Right, and they would say those are special too, but just coincidentally because random chance happened to give them life, yada, yada, yada.
Okay. All right, cool. So maybe I'm wrong about that one.
Well, they don't think that it's special from a, philosophical standpoint. They think it's just, special because it's different is what they would probably say, I would imagine.
Okay. Very good. All right, what's your next one? Yeah.
The government cannot stop people from committing crimes. It's not possible to stop people from committing crimes.
Not to stop, but perhaps to deter. That's all that's possible.
So can't versus won't. Right? The government can't make it so people are unable to commit crimes.
Right.
That'll never happen. People are infinitely creative. What they can do,
I like that.
They can make it is so that people won't commit crimes, that they're afraid to commit crimes, right? So, imagine, with rape. Imagine if someone was raped, they were just, the rapist was immediately castrated and then killed.
Whoa.
Do you think?
Sick.
Do you think?
Can that be on TV?
It should be.
Yeah.
Maybe not the castration.
Oh, gross. Okay.
But imagine if that was the punishment for rape. Do you think rapes would stay where they're at, or do you think they would go down?
Well, right now, rape is just part of our culture.
Right.
Right? So, yeah, if they were going to have public televised castrations as a penalty for rape, probably it'd be about the same.
Right.
No.
So,
that's what a liberal would say, though. No, there's no data that says that punishments deter crime.
Common sense. Yeah. No, but it makes sense. We can't stop people physically from raping each other. It's just, if someone wants to, they have it in their mind that they're going to.
Yeah.
They will.
Right now, what's the consequence for rape?
It's jail time.
It's we're going to put you up in a hotel
put you
with
in
TV
timeout
and food and basketball.
Right.
But of course, you might end up getting raped, right, by one of the other inmates. So I guess that's probably the biggest part of the deterrent right now for rape is that you might get raped by some guy in your cell.
America is the only country in the world where people are afraid to commit crimes because they're afraid of being raped in jail.
Yeah, that's crazy.
See, the system works.
Yeah, well, in that way, I guess it sort of does. But that I would consider that cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Anyway, so you can't make it so say with murder, people want to ban all guns or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's on my list too, actually.
Right. So it's that won't stop people from murdering each other.
Right. You have hands.
Right. Exactly.
Strangle them.
You can stab someone. You can hit
push
someone
them
with
off
a brick. You can
run them over with your car.
Exactly. There's an infinite way of killing people. It's just,
now, I will say this, that having a gun makes it easier.
That is true.
Especially an AR.
Totally.
So I see the point there just slightly.
Which, by the way,
that they don't like the civilians having those weapons, but it should just be that every civilian has one everywhere they go.
Right. One of my show topics I want to do about is conservatives go too overboard when it comes to guns.
Wow. So we might agree on that too.
That's one of my
These shows will be boring if we always agree about everything.
But anyways, so banning all guns won't stop murder because people will always be able to hit them with a car with your hands, strangle.
Exactly.
What you need to do is you need to make it so people don't want to commit crimes.
Correct.
So imagine if we had a swift death penalty.
Yes.
People say technically we have a death penalty or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But that's almost never put into place. It's almost never enforced.
Yeah,
and it's never swift.
How many capital
for
crimes
sure.
are there every single day? And like, how many people get put to death every single day?
Right.
Is it like 10,000 to 1? Does it
Probably
one
not.
person a day even get put to death?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But there's another side to that. It's not just the deterrence. It's not just that we need a deterrent. No, it's not just that if you said, hey, the death penalty is here now. Because you see it yourself. People do a mass shooting and they kill themselves. So, yes, the capital punishment is an effective deterrent. But for some, they don't care. They're just out to go wreak havoc and do what they can.
Now, think about it this way. Think about had they been raised in a society where killing and suicide was not like an option. It wasn't normal. They wouldn't even... They'd be a different person. They wouldn't even be that person who would shoot everyone and then shoot themselves.
What I was going to say is that we have this total problem in our culture that suicide is okay and,
suicide is like a tool that people can use if they want.
Well, and it's like glorified in some way, like just like how what do you call it? Serial murderers. People like are obsessed with serial murderers. They idolize them. They think there's great. There's books about them, and we have. Also, like we mentioned on the last show, this culture of death with evolution, people think that the strong can kill the weak. So if we had a foundation of Christianity and of rational, understanding of reality, like, yes, a God did create us and here's his book. And so if you want to know who he is, it's right here. Instead, we have this culture of people who hate God and they're in control. They control the media. They control the government. And so, of course, when you have that foundation, you're going to have people who want to do whatever feels best to them because there is no God that's going to hold them accountable. And that's why they kill themselves, too. They don't realize that they're going to go shoot a whole bunch of people up and now kill themselves. And now they've put themselves in the hands of the judge.
Right.
They don't realize
they
that,
shoot themselves
or they wouldn't do it.
To escape judgment.
Right.
And then they land into the lap of the judge of the universe.
Exactly. And it's amazing.
That was a quote from Doug McBurney.
Oh, he's the best. So. All right. What are we? Anything more about this topic? Oh, we might have switched topics in the middle of that.
We did a little bit.
We went from the government makes everything pay. No.
It was you can't stop people from committing crimes.
You can't stop people from committing crimes. You can only deter crime, and you do it first with both sides with sanctions in place, but then also that would be like the negative, right? But then you also have the positive, which is the rewards for good behavior, which is like the whole reason a lot of people like to follow the Bible. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a perfect life and be rich and yada, yada. But when you generally follow God's plan for your life, which he lays out in the Bible, life is pretty good.
Right.
You have kids, you have a wife, you have fun, you go out to eat. You have friends, you have family.
Mind if I take a little rabbit trail from that?
A rabbit trail from the rabbit trail?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
So, like with dating, this is a good example of in the Bible. Whenever I've probably dated maybe about 4 different girls.
You.
And about 3 of those relationships, I was, kind of a bad scumbag type person.
Oh, man.
Total, typical teenager. I don't want to say that.
Not you,
like,
Dom.
In a way to like make
Really?
myself justified.
Okay.
But so it was.
Thanks for being real.
It was like I would be, inappropriate or whatever, and it was bad. But then I finally decided with my most recent relationship, I said, you know what, like I'm going to do this in like a way that like honors God. It'll be, wholesome and right. And then, it ended up not working out and it was fine. We like broke off or whatever. But I noticed with the 3 previous relationships, it like hurt. Like to break up when it was done,
yes.
It was like physical pain I felt.
Wow, of course.
But then with the fourth one, the last relationship where we were, didn't do anything appropriate, always had chaperones, didn't, kiss or whatever, and we followed what the Bible said. Once it was over, and she was undoubtedly the best of all those people.
Wow.
All the
she was a Christian gal.
Strong Christian, beautiful, great personality. She was amazing. But then we broke up, and it was like, oh, that's a bummer. But it didn't hurt like those other ones did.
Yes.
Because I followed the guidelines
model.
in the Bible.
Yes.
And it protected my heart.
Yes.
So that's just a little.
God wants us to. He doesn't want us to feel pain. He doesn't want us to be sad, uncomfortable. And so he just tells us what to do. Here's a book. Just read this and then you'll know what to do.
Right.
So anyway,
anyways, that's just an example of why people follow the Bible and it
Yeah,
helps them.
if you follow it, then you're safe, right? So
not safe from the world, but
right, you're more safe. I mean, is someone who doesn't follow it, who's like a murderer, safer than you are when you're following it? No. So anyway, that's great. I love it. So that one, just remind me what that last topic was that the government can't stop people from committing crimes.
Yes.
Okay. So the way that they could do it, that they could prevent, is having actual biblical
punishments,
which are also called sanctions or deterrents. Yes, like capital punishment, corporal punishment, restitution. And then on the other side, having a foundation, a culture of God, of faith, who recognizes the Creator and loves the Bible, doesn't want to try to contradict the Bible everywhere the Bible at every page. And so then you have people who love God and and care about right and wrong, and who also have this possibility of severe pain and, having to go through a lot of bad stuff if they do violate one of the laws. And those things together would be an effective deterrent. So,
right.
Got it.
Okay. So now I believe it's your turn for...
okay, great. So here's my next one. Things liberals just don't get. Evolution has been debunked.
Yes.
They don't get that.
They don't want to get that.
Yeah, did you know this? Are you aware that it's been debunked?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Dennis Noble of Oxford
multiple
University.
times, I would say.
Well, every day.
Countless times, I would say, not multiple.
Think about any scientific journal that you read with anything that's in it debunks evolution. And so finally, back in 2013, Dr. Dennis Noble of Oxford University, he rejected neo-Darwinism when he acknowledged in a paper he wrote all the central assumptions of the modern synthesis, which is another word for neo-Darwinism, have been disproved. That is, that it's gradual, random, led by natural selection, and that traits are inherited from one generation to the next.
But Brian, you're a science denier.
What?
You're a science denier.
That's it. It's different.
You must think the Earth is flat.
That's a bad analogy, Dom. It's not the same thing. No, for real. I mean, so here, and it's not just their fault. I mean, the average Joe is not out there like looking for scientific journals to like read the most up-to-date science. And if they were to read it, they might not even understand exactly what's going on.
Sure.
But the textbooks don't change. The museums don't change. I mentioned it during the first thing, that the existence of our universe requires an uncaused cause. There's PBS specials. Our culture does not update based on this,
right,
based on the most up-to-date scientific information, and that's because they want to remain ingrained in evolution and godlessness, because that's what the majority does. They reject God. Right?
Totally.
That's why they shouted, "Crucify him."
Mm-hmm. Well, a great example of that is the dinosaur soft tissue. Evolution says that dinosaurs went extinct, is it like 60, 65 million years ago? It's either 60 or 65.
Yeah, something
Anyways,
like that.
Then they crack open all these dinosaur bones and they find soft tissue. And, the most liberal estimates say they could only, soft tissue could only last for maybe about 14,000 years at max.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't change anything.
And it's not even reported on. Does anyone even know about this? Let's just go to Starbucks and ask a random person, "Hey, did you know that they found soft tissue in dinosaur bones?" And they will. I'll bet you $50. We could ask 5 different people. Not one will say yes.
65 million years ago. If you ask when did dinosaurs go extinct to Google, it comes up 65 in big bold words. 65 million years ago.
Exactly.
Even though the science community has.
And that's been proven false. That's just the fact.
Right.
That it's been proven false that dinosaurs are that old. False. It's not like it's still a theory, or it's a theory that maybe they existed this long ago. It's like, no, we now know that they didn't. Because we found soft tissue, we know that they existed
what's interesting about
10,000 years ago.
What's interesting about it, too, is they call us science deniers, but if we ask them for one specific study, one, proof of evolution, all this stuff, they, the average, person who calls us a science denier won't be able to come up with one. But off the top of your head, you could probably have close to 30,
Absolutely.
I would imagine.
Well, and that's funny. It's always the pot calling the kettle black. They're projecting, right? They fall asleep at night thinking like, "Oh, the scientists have my back. the scientists, they don't realize like the scientists are like the church leaders. Mm-hmm. They're not objective, unbiased people. They're just trying to promote their own beliefs. And misery loves company. Right. So, yeah, let's get the whole world to believe it.
Science advances one funeral at a time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. I love that. So. Okay, well, that was my next one. Evolution has been debunked. That's one of the most important things that liberals just don't get.
Okay. I have one here. It's a little bit crude.
Okay.
So, fair warning. Liberals just don't get...
Wait, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
It's crude?
I'll move on to the next one.
No, okay, go ahead.
Liberals just don't get that circumcision and castration are not the same thing. They
what?
Cannot comprehend
really?
it. When regarding
I never thought you were going to say that in a million years.
When regarding transgenderism, they will argue that if you're okay with circumcision, then you shouldn't be allowed to be against transgenderism.
What?
So say with this most recent case...
Wait. That's not the same thing. I know we've made this joke. I'm just saying, wait, I don't even understand how they could...
Say with the most recent case. Do you know about the James Younger case in Texas about a month ago?
No, of course not.
So there was a little, I think he was a 7-year-old boy, and his mom was forcing him to transition into a girl.
Surgically?
Well...
With hormones?
So, she started by, just mentally, she would lock him in a room and tell him there's a monster in there who only eats little boys.
What?
Yeah. And
okay.
All this she was a psychopath.
And how is that not child abuse?
It is child
abuse. What is wrong with people?
Anyways, she would do stuff like that. She would only give the child love if
he acted like he was a girl.
Like he was a girl. She would put him with dresses.
Wait, how is all this known?
It was a big court battle. It was in the news about a month ago.
Well, I would think, I would assume that this is all done in private. Is the boy testifying that mommy does this to me?
So the dad was the one who started to, go out and publicly say hey, this is going on. We have a court battle for this kid.
Man.
And
his son.
Anyways,
okay.
So the court ended up, I think, giving them joint custody, but the mom, I think next year, is going to start chemically castrating James. But anyway, so if you get into an argument with a trans activist, they will be totally fine with, castrating a little boy. And they say that if you're okay with circumcision, then you're okay. You should be okay with, castration.
Wait, what? You said it, but I still just don't understand. Why do they say that? That's like saying if you're okay with eating an apple, you're okay with eating a boot.
It's like saying that if you're okay getting an ear piercing, it's okay to have your ovaries removed.
How does that flow logically?
It doesn't
Where is their logic?
They say that if you cut off a little bit, it's the same as cutting off all of it. But anyways.
So if your parents circumcise a little boy, they just had a little boy, he's just been delivered.
Normal thing that's happened
it happens every day,
thousands of years,
all the time. And that's the same as now. When you say castration, the purpose of castration is to transition into a female from a male.
Yes.
So they're saying that having a little bit of skin removed, which is actually it's in our culture because of the Bible. It's something that's happened for thousands of years. It's not required now, and people don't really know that. It's just kind of like a tradition now that people don't even understand why we do it.
Even non-Christians,
Totally, everyone does it. But anyway, so doing that is the same as trying to turn a boy into a girl. And now, not that even works. It's not like you remove their testicles and now they're a girl. Now they're a boy without testicles.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe we should just move on because I just can't even grasp how they would say that those two things are similar.
Next time you run into a trans activist, ask them about it, and I'm sure you'll be shocked. Probably won't be shocked because everyone is. There's no bottom to the abyss of their stupidity.
I guess that they'll at least maybe be able to explain their reasoning to me.
It'll sound about as crazy as I just explained it to you.
Maybe we should get one on our show.
All right.
Can we find one?
Let's do it.
And have them explain it.
I put this on our list because I had this argument with a person over the weekend.
Holy cow! Where? When you were up in the mountains?
I was up in the mountains, and I run an anti-porn page on
Facebook,
on Instagram, and so random topics come up.
This was online. It wasn't in person.
Yeah, it wasn't in person. By the way, that Instagram, Wolves We Feed.
Wolves We Feed.
Wolves We Feed on Instagram. But anyway, so I got into an argument with that person. And halfway through, I realized how absurd it is. I'm arguing over whether or not we should be allowed to castrate boys.
So then I would just let them win the argument and say, okay, we can't castrate boys and we also can't circumcise anymore. Fine. I'm okay with no more circumcision.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you won.
So I'd be okay with that.
That's another thing.
Which, I realized that the fact that we're having that argument over whether or not you can castrate boys means that we've lost.
Oh,
it's over.
Well, how do we win from here?
You can't.
I feel like they're going to
wait until God
go
comes
extinct.
Back.
That'll work, but also they're all killing themselves and like making themselves infertile and going nuts. Meanwhile, we're like having families and kids. So I'm just hoping that they're going to go extinct.
I was hopeful with that idea, and I was talking with my brother Michael, and he showed me how that was wrong and how I can be depressed forever. But
well, don't tell
colleges.
Me. Ignorance is bliss. Colleges.
Colleges are winning Christian kids over faster than they're killing themselves out.
Of course. How do we solve that? What do we do?
We got to teach kids.
We got to do this podcast, and we need other people to do podcasts.
Other people do podcasts.
We need more of a right voice, and by right we don't mean right wing, just right, like correct. Right. We need a voice out there that is right. So if you're listening. And you have...
Even if you're 85% right, just keep talking.
Yeah.
And that'll be helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you're like 51% right. Even if you're 49% right, that's better than their like 2%.
Well, and I guess we have to allow people to talk even if they're wrong. But hopefully just logic wins the day. So the problem right now is people who are right are afraid to talk because Christians have been put in the closet and the culture glorifies... just as evil as you can get. The more evil you can get, the better you are, and the more like Christ-focused, Christ-centered, right and wrong-centered you are, the more you need to just shut up, or we're going to like literally stone you.
And them not talking, it's not bad just because they're not like talking to defend their own belief. But for the next generation coming up, science advances one funeral at a time.
Right.
That's kind of that way with like perversion too. So I do swing dance, and
swing dance.
I do that.
That's like do.
Yes.
And
I do
Is
that
like that. Did you do that
very,
song?
very, very little. I don't think we do that song.
Oh, but do you know it?
No.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I do it we do it at a local college, and it's just some of the other students who teach the swing dancing, and they have to give this. It's like a requirement that the faculty gives them that they have to do this thing of like, hey, everyone, my pronouns are he, him, hers. You don't ask. How do they say it? They say, not like, will you dance with me, but will you follow this dance with me? And it's like, anyone can dance with anyone. It's 2019. They're like required to say this.
Will you follow this dance with me? They can't say, will you dance with me?
Usually you would, like, a guy would go up to a girl, or a girl would go up to a guy and say, could you dance with me? But now they're making you say, can you lead this dance for me? Or can you follow this dance with me? Anyways, it's just this gender.
All right, we're making a list right now of things Brian just doesn't get. So first is the circumcision, castration, and now is follow, lead me, dance. I don't get it.
Anyways, it's just a way of being gender neutral and friendly, yada, yada, yada.
Sure.
But anyways, like I heard them talking afterwards, and they were like, I hate so much that we have to give this stupid, speech about why pronouns are yada, yada, yada. But what they don't realize is all the new kids who are coming in, they hear them being serious about it, and then they're just brought up, and that's how it's normal for them. So in our generation, no one follows those rules just because we know it's weird. But for the people coming up, they all follow those rules.
So that's something liberals do get, is how to destroy kids.
Yes.
They get that.
They get
how to indoctrinate poor
Hitler
little minds
that
are full of mush coming in.
Hitler understood that very well.
Right. All right. Well, then we'll have to talk more later about how we win, how we fix all this. Anyway, we should move on. What were you next?
I think you were next.
Oh, what did you last say?
The
circumcision.
Castration.
That's insanity. Okay, whatever. Mine don't even compare to yours. Mine are my first several were all about science, and so this is my last one about science, and I've already touched on it, which is. Liberals don't get that their secular naturalist scientists are their church leaders. And I just touched on that at the end. So basically, people think that just because someone's a scientist, that means that they're right. Like that, they almost just draw that line.
If you have a white lab coat and you have test tubes and bottles, that
then
means you're right.
You're purely objective, completely untainted by your own biases.
You have divine wisdom, or I guess you don't have divine because there is no divine.
Yes,
according to them.
So scientists, naturalist scientists today, evolutionists, they have an a priori commitment to naturalism. They are presuppositionalists. As I often say, we're all presuppositionalists, just meaning we all have like these basic ideas about how things work. And we either work to like affirm those presuppositions, regardless of the evidence, regardless of logic. We just care about our presuppositions. Like, I believe that I am a black woman, Dominic, and that is my presupposition, and don't you tell me otherwise.
Calm down, Shaniqua.
Okay, Calm
down.
Sorry.
Is that racist for me to say Shaniqua?
No.
That's what people would say.
That's my name. So you either have when you have a presupposition, which everyone does, you either say, I'm going to just follow this blindly wherever it goes, or you're going to say, I want to know if I'm wrong. And this kind of ties us back to the very beginning of everything we were talking about, just generally that we're here to judge each other. That's like one of our main functions on this earth, is to look at each other and judge each other. And the Bible says that we're in the multitude of counselors, there is safety, right?
And search my heart, oh God, to find any evil way.
Yes.
Which is interesting. It doesn't say to search your, well, maybe it does.
To say what?
To search your own heart. It asks God to search your heart for you.
Well, because we're so prideful and we deceive ourselves. That's a great prayer. I try and pray that a lot. Like, search my heart, O Lord, and let me know where I'm wrong. But anyway, so that's the next one. They don't get that their scientists are not atheists because of the evidence. They are atheists.
Despite the evidence.
Despite the evidence. And then they are looking for things and coming up with theories. And they're trying to see how they can describe the world without God and come up with theories that take God out of the picture. And they fail over and over and over and over.
And then it spirals out of control and they come up with these most absurd like theory savers.
Yeah, like multiverse theory. Oh, we just found out that it's impossible that the universe could have arisen by chance. So now there must be 10 million. There must be an infinite number of universes.
Denver Bible
ours
Church
is here.
We have the smartest people at Denver Bible Church.
I guess so.
One guy from our church, Zane, you probably know him.
Oh, yeah.
He says he has a quote I really love, which is, when you start with 0 plus 0 equals everything, you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. Thanks, Zane. That's a good one. All right. Well, that's all. I don't have to go on that any longer. What's your next one?
Okay, this is actually my last one, so we'll just have to rely on you after this.
I still have 5 more.
Jokes should be allowed to be funny.
And
that's all I have for that.
Jokes should be allowed to be funny as long as they don't confuse someone's gender. Is that what you meant to say?
Jokes should be allowed to be funny, period.
Jokes should be allowed to be funny. That's something liberals don't get.
Liberals hate jokes.
Now they love They love
jokes that offend Christians.
They love making fun of God and Jesus and Christians.
Yes.
And also base bodily functions, such as going to the bathroom.
Now, when like I always hear liberals, they always get upset at comedians. They're like, "Oh, this comedian's transphobic or whatever." And like cancel culture is huge, right?
What is it?
Cancel culture. So
Cancel culture,
which is like, oh, if a comedian told a joke that slightly offends leftists at all, they're going to have their show canceled.
Oh.
And that happens over and over and over.
So they're operating in fear, trying to make sure that all of their stuff specifically only offends Christians as much as possible so they can keep their career.
Yes.
Smart.
And it bothers me so bad when people get offended by jokes. So I try... I listen to a lot of stand-up comedy. I enjoy that. And the comedians make fun of the vast majority of people.
Sure.
And one of their biggest targets is Christians. So I always realize, I realize they also make fun of liberals a lot. So what I'm going to do is, I don't care if they make fun of me. That's okay. I'm not going to get all upset by it, because then that'd be totally hypocritical. I'd get mad at them for...
making fun of you, but you're going to laugh at what they say about other people.
Yeah. So I always say, I'm not going to get offended when they make fun of me as a Christian. And I also think that trans people shouldn't get super upset when people make fun of them because it's a joke.
Sure, this is good. I hadn't thought through this.
Now there is one caveat which I don't like. Everyone has their one thing that you can't make fun of. And
Holocaust.
I hate to
it's
even
not a good thing to make fun of.
I hate to even have a one thing.
9/11.
But it's when people make fun of God, which is different than when people make fun of Christians.
Okay.
So I don't like. I will never get offended when someone makes fun of me.
Sure.
That I think is reasonable.
Wow, Dom, this is deep. I love it.
When someone makes fun of me or someone close
God
to me, we can get
untouchable.
Yes.
Do not mock the living God.
Right.
Right. And that's actually what turned me off from that show. Have you heard of this show?
I have.
Do you watch it?
I do not.
There was this disgusting episode. I loved it for years. And finally, the episode that's turned me off from this show, I wish I didn't even say the name of it. I don't want to give it any publicity.
We'll bleep it out.
Okay, we'll bleep it out. I love it. Yeah, bleep out.
Bleep, bleep.
Do we have the ability to bleep things?
We do.
Okay, sweet. Okay. Anyway, I don't even want to say what happened. Just generally,
He's mocking God.
God was there, and he was telling Adam and Eve not to go by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the reason they showed for why God said this was absolutely despicable. It made me so enraged. And that's righteous indignation. That's why I felt that way, is because you do not insult God. So I'm not going to explain what, but that was why I stopped watching that show. So I like that rule. Yeah. So you could joke about anything you want.
You could even make fun of Christians.
Christians, right.
Christians,
just not God.
Just not God.
Not Jesus, not God, not the Spirit,
right.
Not the Bible. But make fun of Dominic because of his weird hat.
That's fine.
Dominic, your hat has
I love my hat.
It has a Jesus fish on it. Let's make fun of Jesus fish.
I don't have I have the Quebec geeks on my hat.
Evolutionists make fun of Jesus fish. They put the little legs on them, and they put Darwin in it.
I love there's the Darwin fish bumper sticker.
Yeah.
And then there's the bumper sticker, and it's the Jesus fish eating the Darwin fish.
Yes, I have a couple of those. Okay. But so jokes,
kind of cheesy.
So jokes are things liberals don't get unless they are about going to the bathroom, making fun of Christians, or I guess a couple other more inappropriate things we won't even bring up.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all they find funny, and everything else makes them angry.
Yes.
Okay. My next one is things that they don't get is that there is no such thing as right and wrong without God.
Yes.
They don't get it.
Well, they don't even think that there's right and wrong. A good majority of them.
Totally.
They think it's all personal preference.
Yeah, that's popular among the kids whose brains are full of mush, going through the colleges and whatnot, public schools. But, older liberals, they don't. I feel like they do have a sense of right and wrong, but they don't get that there's nothing that they can say that this here is right and this here is wrong without God.
Right.
They think that what makes right and wrong is philosophical. What's that, the social contract?
Social constructs.
Yeah, well, and there's actually something literally in philosophy called the social contract.
Okay, contract.
That they say is what all societies rule by, is something that's just naturally inherent in our DNA.
I know about natural rights, which people say that humans naturally have rights just because we're humans.
And that's true.
That's not true.
It's not true?
No, it's because God gives us rights.
Well,
right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
By their logic, trees should have the same rights that we have.
Oh, the trees aren't humans.
The trees should naturally have rights because they're trees. That's the same exact logic as humans should have rights because we're humans.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. That makes total sense. But yeah, so right and wrong. So you're right that we've talked with plenty of people who think there's no such thing as absolute right and absolute wrong. But then there are some who believe things are just wrong, right? Like if you talk to them and try to tell them that homosexuality is wrong, and then you try to use the analogy of pedophilia, they believe pedophilia is wrong, and that's why they won't accept that analogy.
Right, not for long. They won't.
It's different. It's not the same thing. They believe pedophilia is wrong, but they have no basis with which to judge that it's wrong.
They don't know why it's wrong.
They don't know why, right? And that's why eventually they will be convinced that it's right.
Yes.
Right?
Which is happening now, especially with all the drag queens and hypersexualization of kids.
Yeah, they have drag queen book time.
Before we die, pedophilia is going to be normal.
I think so.
So
what do we do then? I guess just move to a different country? The moon? Are we safe anywhere? I guess just in heaven.
I just pray for the rapture. We can pray to hasten the coming of the Lord.
Yes.
Lord, please come back before we publish this show.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Jesus, that would be so fun.
Before we're done.
To be up with you in heaven.
That'd be a good way to end the show.
And that's not an endorsement for suicide, in case anyone's thinking that. So, anywho.
Oh, that's another... I have another thing that liberals just don't get.
Okay.
They don't get that Jesus dying on the cross was not suicide.
Oh, wow.
They act like it's suicide. You know, there's that one song that's pretty popular. It was pretty popular.
Yeah,
I don't know if it is anymore.
By those Muslims.
Yeah, and
it
it's
goes
like
self-righteous suicide.
Trust my self-righteous suicide, and they're
Right.
talking about God.
Yeah.
They act like it's suicide, but they don't understand that, like, you know, if someone is in war and someone throws a grenade at like his squad and he jumps on top of it and takes the
to
blow,
save his friends.
that's not suicide.
Well, not only that, Jesus didn't even do anything remotely close to that. Jesus went willingly with a group of people who were determined to kill him.
Right.
And they killed him. He didn't jump on a grenade. They threw 20 grenades at his feet.
Right. And he even said, like, Lord, if there's any other way, let this pass from me. So
Right.
it wasn't like he was like a suicidal maniac.
And he would have gone willingly had everyone repented and there would, be no one to actually crucify him. But that's a whole nother complicated topic. But so what was that one? Things liberals don't get?
That
Jesus did not commit suicide. Okay, very good. Yes, he died for our sins. He died to pay the penalty for our sins, and he suffered God's wrath poured out on his own son for us. That is love.
Imagine how scary that would be, suffering God's wrath.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
anyways.
Oh, wow. All right, great. All right, so here's my next one.
Yes.
Liberals don't get that the media tells them what to think. Yeah, so they watch the news, they read their articles. Everything is biased nowadays. Like there was a time when I think the news publications, newspapers, and the media in general, they tried to be not fair and balanced, just objective. When they're reporting on something, it didn't contain their own biased perspective on what was happening. But now, if there's like a pro-life march downtown, the article will be about how these violent alt-right anti-choice protesters were like, doing
yada,
whatever.
yada, yada.
Yeah. So everything is tainted. They're consuming this media that is like brainwashing them every step of the way. And they think that they're right because the media agrees with them.
Yeah. No, I don't totally agree that there was ever a time when people were objective about reporting the news or whatnot. But what I would say, and there are still some people, is that they were honest about how they presented it.
Oh.
So like Fox News or like the Daily Wire are good examples. They're like that today. They say like, yeah, we are Republican.
We are conservative.
We're conservative Republican.
Well, Republican's a better word.
That's how we're going to present the facts that's coming from us.
Yes.
So, but CNN, they're over there like, oh no, we're not liberal. We're objectively, neutral.
Right.
It's like, no, you're not. And so if I would respect CNN a lot more if they just said, hey, we're liberal, by the way.
Right.
So,
well, like there was that guy down in Colorado Springs, the crazy old pothead who shot up the Planned Parenthood, and he was a liberal. And I think he was like living in a truck in the desert, and he had all these like liberal bumper stickers on his car. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, I may not be, but the liberal media did not report on this at all, right? Had this been a pro-life Christian with like a Jesus fish on his bumper, it would have been all over the country because the liberal media runs the country.
or like when Muslims go and shoot up like 10 people and shouting Allahu Akbar, and they're like, we don't know if he has ties to terrorist
Al-Qaeda
organizations.
Or ISIS or whatever it is now. So that's the next one. The liberals don't get that the media tells them what to think. They have
do not
an agenda.
get minimum wage.
Oh,
I do not understand why that is wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely they don't get that.
So,
well, that's a loaded topic. You want to talk through that? You want to give it a bullet point or two?
We could do it. We could do it in under 2 minutes.
Okay, let's go.
Brian, you're a business owner, right?
Yep.
So if the government wants more jobs and they make you pay 30 times as much as you pay now, are you going to have more or less jobs that you create?
I'm going to have no jobs.
Going to have no jobs.
Yeah,
Boom.
because I can't afford. No one will pay for my service. I would have to charge way too much to make any profit. That's not worth it.
Exactly. So the higher minimum wage, fewer jobs.
Right.
Plus, it's stealing from you. Saying if you want an employee, you have to do. I'm going to take your money. I'm going to give it to him.
But Dominic, that means that people will all be only paid $1 an hour.
That's fine.
Okay. That was a good one.
Which, by the way, they say that we should have a minimum wage so everyone can have a living wage.
Yes.
Not everyone should have a living wage.
And not every job should be forced to pay a living wage.
Right. So say you're like a 13-year-old old kid, and you want to save up for a video game system.
Yeah.
It's like you don't need a living wage.
Exactly.
You work like
Think about that. How all these businesses have to be able to provide a living wage for everyone who enters their door. You, with your little lemonade stand, you've got to be able to provide a living wage if you want an employee. And there, like you just said, there's so many people who don't, not only do they not need it, they don't even want it.
Right.
They're just there because it's like, hey, I got off of school. I guess I'll make some money and buy my Xbox.
Right. So think about that. Now, companies only make jobs that, like someone is, so they're like the employee is pulling their own weight and making the company the money back at least. So now there's like tons of jobs that just aren't happening because
Correct.
companies they realize, that service, it won't even pay for itself.
Exactly. There would be so many, there would be an entire industry surrounding the like $1 to $10 an hour wage. There would be jobs and products and services that you can't even imagine.
Not to mention prices just in general would go down because the companies don't have to spend so much on their employees.
Right, it would just be supply and demand. The market would dictate the prices. Right? We wouldn't have McDonald's charging $9 for a Big Mac and a fries. Like that's doubled in the last 15 years.
Right.
I remember when it was $5 for a value.
Also,
now it's
you
10.
notice at McDonald's all those like self-served kiosks are coming up and it's all becoming robotic.
That's a great point. And then you know what they're going to do when all these businesses who are saying, okay, well, we can't pay this minimum wage, when they all start to go automated and androids or whatever,
they're going to come up with the rules saying you have to hire people.
You have to have
people.
75% humans. It's going to be something like that. People doing these jobs because they just don't get. They think it has to be regulated more and more and more and more and more. Just get rid of the regulations. Also, it all fixes itself.
Is that not an insult to those people?
Tell me.
It's saying, like, a computer could do your job extremely easily, but since there's nothing else you can do, we're going to force you to do this.
Yeah, that is insulting. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So that's actually a topic I'd like to do a whole show on. I've had so much thought about that. So let's move on so we don't drag this out too long. Earlier, you said that the government, everything they pay for makes everything more expensive. I thought you were going to say this one, and that is... Hunger and homelessness are perpetuated, not solved by generosity. They don't get that. Is that when you are handing out blankets and food and money, etc., that's just making people see all the ways that they can not work.
People are more than happy to take that money and then not change.
Yeah, there's people who just don't want to work. So stop forcing them to have the life you have. Stop pitying them. They don't want to. It's a choice.
My dad used to carry around a sign in his trunk. He saw this homeless guy who said, "We'll work for food." And so he pulled up to him. He said, "Hey, we're moving a house. If you want to come, we'll pay you $20 an hour." And he said, "I can't give up my corner for that much."
Wow.
So my dad got out with his sign, stood right next to him, and it had an arrow pointing to the guy and said, he's lying.
Yes, I remember that sign. And that's so funny because they make so much money standing on that corner.
Right.
Because people give him money. Why? To feel better about themselves. Yes. Look how good I was today. I gave him $100 bill. Wow, I'm so good.
Right.
I'm good.
And imagine if that charity instead was going to, like things that matter, like, if there was like a natural disaster or something, and that charity instead of going to that, like homeless person who's just being lazy, if it went to like a family who just had their like house destroyed or something like that.
Sure, that'd be a wiser use of it. I mean, people are free to be stupid with their money if they want to.
Right, totally.
My wife just the other day, she went to a party where they were making like packets for the homeless, which sounds so nice on the surface. No. Now you're whispering too. Isn't it fun to whisper into the mic?
I don't like it. Not the whispering. I don't like giving homeless people stuff.
No, so they they're making these things, and it sounds so nice. I'm going to this party. We're all making blankets, homeless people, blah, blah, blah. And my initial thought was, I want to do a party where we're making baskets for business owners. And we're just going to walk around to the poor, impoverished business owners who are dealing with these crazy regulations. I want to walk into the restaurant down the street and hand him and say, hey, look, man, here's a basket of money. This
is for all your hard work.
This is for all your hard work. Thank you. You're creating jobs. You're working your butt off. Literally, I know a guy who runs a restaurant. He works 15 hours a day. 15.
Is that Paul?
Yeah, that's Paul. Bada Bing.
Paul's amazing.
Come and eat at Bada Bing. He does not necessarily agree with the opinions of Truth Cousins. But anyway, Paul's a great guy.
Most likely does not.
Well, I don't know if he does or doesn't, but I'm just thinking.
Give the disclaimer so people don't hate him.
So people don't go protest him like, they mentioned your name on their show. So anyway, instead of going up to some homeless person on the street, yeah, they're cold. Yeah, that's sad. Should we have compassion? Yeah. But guess what? That person could just choose to not be there. Homelessness and not having a job, that is a choice that this person is making. So all of us people who are out there trying to donate to food drives and help with all that, we are in the most overfed nation in the world. Anybody who wants to be fed, anybody who wants to have a house, of course we have all these crazy, stupid social programs which are stealing money from me and you to give it to people who don't want to do the work to have a house. So they have all those at their disposal, but also they could just go get a job where the employer is forced to pay them $15 an hour. So instead of making a basket for a homeless person, make a basket for the guy down the street who's running a small business. Give him a pile of cash.
Let's give some money to Jeff Bezos.
I totally.
Let's write him a check.
Let's buy something right now from Amazon that we don't want, and just put in the comments, we're just trying to support you,
Don't
Jeff.
deliver this.
But Jeff is horrible. He's an adulterer. He's a disgusting human being.
He is the most wealthy person. I just Googled.
In the entire world.
Most wealthy person. So I would like to donate to him just
to
for
Jeff
that.
Bezos. All right.
Here you go, Jeff. Here's $5.
Like I said before, if you want to be stupid with your money, that's your decision. Anyway, that's my thought on that. So my next one, since you're all out, is that, of course, and we kind of touched on this before, we talked about guns, but that war can be just and necessary to bring about peace.
Yes.
Right? They think war is the most horrible thing. We need to completely demilitarize. We need no guns, no army, the Muslims are just going to come in and take over our country. And then there still will be war.
Right.
So what are they thinking with that? Can you tell me? Can you answer this? Really?
I can't follow their logic.
They just don't get it that you have to be able to defend yourself. So you need a military.
Others.
You need nukes because nukes exist. The other guys got nukes. The only thing stopping them from nuking us is we got nukes.
You know what I love about America? We have the second largest air force in the world, which is our Navy's Air Force. And it is second only to our actual Air Force.
That makes me feel so good. I'm going to sleep a little better just knowing that.
I forget the name of the project, but back during the Cold War, we made sure, I think there was a certain number of nukes in the sky at any given time for dozens of years on end because we didn't know how else to protect ourselves other than to just always have nukes in the sky, which I think is amazing.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah. So war is now with a just nation, right? Like ISIS, they're trying to wage war. There's people who wage unjust wars. That's a thing.
Yes.
But that's not America. I mean, maybe it has been. I don't know everything about the inner workings of war, like Bill Clinton, wag the dog. Let's create a war to distract from my recent indiscretions with my secretary. Yeah, that's all true. That happens. So I don't know why liberals like Bill Clinton, because he's a disgusting human being, and they're mad at Trump and others for doing the same stuff Bill Clinton does. But anyway.
They're starting to throw them under the bus, though, the Clintons.
I have noticed that a little bit.
They got their use out of him, so they don't need him anymore.
So they're starting to allow him to be a scapegoat.
Once they get all the liberal juice out of a politician, then they can just throw him away.
Okay. Well, that's good. At least he's being thrown away. So liberals don't get that it's good to go to war to defend yourself or to defend the defenseless, right? So, imagine what the world would be like if liberals ran the world. It would just be that the liberals would be decimated instantly. They're so lucky that they're living in a country where there are right-wing lunatics with guns. Right?
They're lucky.
If we were gone, I'm telling you, this whole country, it's done. It's toast. And they are going to have their way.
Maybe we could all move somewhere, and then we'll have an amazing country, and then they all die, and then...
Yeah, that'd be great. Then we could come back.
Where you want to go?
We can fight the Muslims who've taken over America and win it back.
And we'll have the guns to do it.
And then the liberals will...
Liberals always say, like, oh, there's going to be a civil war, which, you know, whoever side the military is on will win that if there's one. But what I like about that, a civil war, is who wins? The side that has all the guns.
Yeah, I've thought through that too. But I think the military would be on their side.
Probably.
I think it would be Warren. It would be one of the liberals who is the one who gets the war cooking. And then she's in control of, you know. That's another thing. This isn't on my list. It was on it. I took it off because there was too many things on my list. But liberals don't get that. Republicans are just Democrats who are late to the party.
Yes.
So I see Republicans as whiny, weak liberals.
You know, I saw this thing. It was do you know the name Charlie Kirk by any way?
No.
He's a guy with Turning Point USA. He's a big conservative, you know, in air quotes, conservative.
Yeah.
And he speaks to college students a lot. And one college student went up to him and was challenging him on homosexuality and was saying, like, how come you support homosexuality as a conservative? Aren't you a Christian? Yada, yada, yada. And one of the things that he told him is he said, a conservative is a liberal 5 years ago. And I thought that was amazing. And when he was saying that, and then they got into a little bit of an argument. There were conservatives who were cheering both the speaker and the student asking the questions. So there are some conservatives left who, you know, they still have, you know, good morals.
Yeah, like us.
Yes.
There's a couple.
It's
maybe like 15.
All 12.
Yeah.
12. I know of 12.
Well, but that's the thing is liberals are vicious.
Yes.
They get what they want. And Republicans are just kind of on the side like, no, don't do that. Oh, okay, you can do it. And then if the Republicans try to do something like you've got Trump here trying to like build a wall, and I'm not going to comment on if that's right or wrong, but he's trying to accomplish something, and he is being kind of like the liberals in terms of his gusto. He wants to make it happen, right? But they are such a united front for their ideals and values that they do not let things happen that they do not agree with. Republicans, on the other hand, they will let anything go. They're just like the lazy kind of like, oh, yeah, well.
Don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't want to offend anybody. So that's something that really frustrates me is that there really is no party for me. For someone who's like, no, I'm not just going to vote for this guy because he's running against that guy. Like, that's not enough reason for me to vote for him. Because what has Donald Trump done? He's funded Planned Parenthood over $1 billion. He's willing to shut down the government over his wall, but he's not willing to shut down the government over 3,000 babies killed every single day. He doesn't care about any of this stuff.
No.
But today, Republicans, conservatives are only conservative economically. No one cares about right and wrong. People don't care about, as long as I can like not have to pay as high taxes. That's really what I'm concerned about. That's what Republicans today care about. They do not care about
morality,
the country being moved right into a godly way.
I'll give this to the liberals. They care about morality. They're wrong with everything they say about it.
But they fight for it.
They fight for it at least.
Yes, and they win.
And they win.
Because they fight
vicious. For it. Imagine if we fought for it.
Yeah, the homosexuals, they got gay marriage. They became normalized.
I have a theory that if the church as a whole decided, like, hey, we're going to stop abortion, it'd be like 3 weeks.
You think
until
so?
It was done.
Then we need to do that.
If the entire church rose up.
How do we get the entire church to help?
You can't.
You listening. You're part of that church,
Yeah.
Can you help? Start a podcast.
That's
something.
Go to your pastor. Say, could you just do one sermon about abortion?
Wow. They'll say no because they'll lose congregants. They'll lose money.
Go to your pastor. Say, for however many congregants you lose, I'll make up the money.
Wow.
Be generous.
That is a bold statement. Now you're thinking like a liberal.
Try and do that.
All right. Let's move on. This is the last one. The very last one. and it is things liberals don't get is that judging is good.
Oh, yes.
Judging is good.
It's my favorite as well.
And they actually do know that because they do it all the time.
Yes. They're hypocrites.
They are the most judgmental, intolerant people in the entire world. And like you just said, they're complete hypocrites.
I wouldn't say in the entire world. I would say I think I would be better at that than they are.
You're more judgmental than liberals?
Judgmental and intolerant.
Okay.
I would say.
Well, so you're a very special human being. I
try to be as intolerant as I can.
Yeah, what is the purpose of judging, Dominic?
What is the purpose of it? It's to figure out if something is good or bad.
Yeah, pretty much. Judge. You judge 500 times a day.
Yes.
Imagine if judging was bad.
It's not possible to not judge.
Like, I want to put on my shoes, so I look out and see, is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it sunny?
And then
I'm judging.
You determine what shoes you wear.
So another thing, I'm looking down the street and I see a woman who seems to be being attacked by a man. Am I going to judge or am I not going to judge? Right?
Don't judge, Brian.
Yeah. They think that you cannot judge, that it's wrong to judge. And like we said before, in the midst of counselors, there is safety. It's our job to judge each other.
Yes. Now, if they were being more honest, they would say, don't judge what I'm doing to be wrong.
Right. They'd say, don't judge me. And anything that I think is right, don't judge that.
Right. Don't judge that to be wrong.
But they say blanket statement.
What they should say is agree with all my judgments. That's what they should say.
And then if you're a Christian and you're judging, they'll tell you, Matthew 7 or 24. Where is it in Matthew? Yeah. It says judge not.
Have you seen the meme that it's that entire chapter and it's judge not and then everything else is scribbled out?
Yeah, so if you're listening and you don't know this, God commands us to judge. It says judge not, and then the next word essentially is hypocritically. Judge not hypocritically.
You know what Paul says? Paul says, hey, everyone, don't you know that we're going to be judging the angels? How are you going to judge the angels if you can't judge the people around you?
The smallest things right now.
Start practicing judging each other so you'll be able to do that when you get up.
And everyone does do it already. So all you have to do is start practicing to judge righteously. So that's my whole list. Things liberals don't get.
Right on.
Thanks so much, Dom.
Thanks, Brian.
Super fun.
Yes.
We'll do another show soon?
Sounds good. I don't know when this will go up.
Okay.
Maybe it'll go up around Thanksgiving.
Whoever is listening has no clue when it went up. They don't care.
Well, they'll be able to see on YouTube.
Okay.
Anyways.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.